How are we doing today? Good. Okay. Who's having challenges with the pollen right now? Oh, like everybody. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you know what you should do, right? Yeah, the neti pot. Yeah. Get that nasal rinsing going, right? Um, So for those of you who use your neti pot in the morning, I would suggest using it in the evening as well. So this time of year, I do twice a day, first thing in the morning and then in the evening, because you're out there all day in the pollen, and it's getting trapped in your nose. So it just makes it a little bit harder. So the reason for rinsing, and I know some of you use like you don't use the neti pot, you use the little, yeah, the little syringe thing that rinses. So as long as it irrigates your nostrils, that's the important part, because inside your nose, inside your nostrils, are little like they're called cilia. They're like little hairs, and those little hairs capture the pollen and the particulate that's in the air and filter that out so it doesn't get into your lungs. So the cilia are sticky, so that's why the pollen sticks to it on the way in. And if it's loaded up, if you've been breathing in all day and the cilia gets loaded with all the little pollens and particulate, it doesn't have the capacity to filter anymore. So that's when it goes into your lungs. That's when you get like the, exactly, that kind of thing. Exactly. So that's not a bad thing. The other thing that I tend to do this time of year as well is a little gargle with salt. So that can help as well. Is there a loud fan noise? And it's cold. Do you guys know how to turn the fan down? Oh, thanks, Deb. Yes. Oh, perfect. Yes. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, that would have been. Oh, all right. Thanks. Now that we got all that stuff out of the way. Yes, Evelyn. Okay. Hi, Jerry. Welcome, welcome. Yeah. All right. Thank you for that. All right. So, breathing. We all do it. Yeah? Yeah. All right. Let's do a little bit of conscious breathing. How's that? So, if you want to come right up to the front edge of your chair, have your feet underneath your knees. Find your sitting bones. Are you sitting on the front of your sitting bones? Are you sitting on the back of your sitting bones? Can you sit right in the middle? Right side, left side. Bring your shoulders up, back, and down, and let your shoulders kind of rest right above your hips. In other words, we're not slumping forward, and we don't have that, really rigid posture with the shoulders thrown back. So we're just kind of letting the shoulders be above the hips. And this is optimal for getting breath into your body when you're in this position. So if it's comfortable to close your eyes, I'll invite you to do that now. And just begin by noticing your breath. You don't have to change anything about how you're breathing. Just watch the air as it moves in and out. And do a little inquiry. Is your breathing fast or slow? Is it shallow or deep? Does the air move more easily through one side of your nose than the other? This is very normal to have the airflow shift nostril to nostril throughout the day. And what do you notice about your inhalations? Are they smooth? Are they choppy? Where do you feel movement in your body when you breathe in? Do you feel your belly expand or your rib cage expand? And what do you notice about your exhalations? Are they long? Are they short? Do you feel your body contract slightly? And then notice any pauses between the inhales and the exhales. So after you inhale, can you notice a pause before you turn to an exhale? And after you exhale, do you notice a pause as you turn back to your inhale? So there's actually 4 parts to your breathing. The inhales and exhales we're all very familiar with, but then there are those pauses in between. And for most of us, it's a slight pause. We might not even notice that we're pausing. I'm going to bring a little more attention to those pauses in a moment. So for now, as you breathe in, make a slow count of 4 in your head to complete that inhalation. And as you breathe out, again, make a slow count of 4 to breathe out. And if 4 is too much, if you feel like you're not getting enough air, if you're not getting enough breath, you can do this to a count of 3. So again, you're just counting to 3 or 4 as you breathe in, and then counting to 3 or 4 as you breathe out. So we're just trying to balance the inhalations and exhalations. As you're doing these breaths in and out to a count of 4, notice where you feel movement in your body. See if you can let your belly get soft and expansive on the inhalations, and then gently pull back on the belly muscles as you exhale. So still counting to 3 or 4 on your inhales and exhales. We're going to add a count to the holds in between. So on the inhalation, you'll count to 3 or 4. At the top of the inhalation, hold your breath in for a count of 3 or 4. As you exhale to a count of 3 or 4, when you get to the bottom of the exhalation, again, you'll hold your breath out for a count of 3 or 4. This is called the box breath. So it's like a box. There's 4 sides. We're making each side equal in length. So the inhale, the hold, the exhale, and that hold are all the same amount of time. Breathing into 4, holding for 4, breathing out to 4, and holding for 4 or 3. And notice if it's more challenging to hold your breath to a count of 4, either after the inhale or the exhale, or if it's more challenging to breathe in or out to a count of 4. And you may not notice a difference at all. As you're breathing in, holding, breathing out and holding, counting to 4. Notice if you're creating some tension in your body, if you've lost that beautiful posture with the shoulders above the hips, the hands relaxed, the neck relaxed. And then take another of these breaths or 2 and gradually come back to your natural breath. So you're letting go of the box breathing, you're letting go of the counting. You don't have to pay attention to the holds. And again, just observing the air as it moves in and out of your body. Let's take a deep breath in together and let it out with a sigh. Let your eyes gently open. Good. Let's roll the shoulders forward, up, back, and down a few times. So we're going to do a little bit of work to open up the areas of the body that can accept more breath, right? So the rib cage, the waist, the back of the body, the front of the body. So notice your shoulders. Do they rotate smoothly and evenly, or are there some kind of flat spots, some jumpy spots? And then roll the other way. And notice if one shoulder rolls more easily than the other. And then let your shoulders relax. We're going to take the right arm, and using the elbow, we're going to draw some nice big circles on the wall. So moving from the elbow up and around. Now, if this is painful or uncomfortable for your shoulder, you can make your circles a little bit smaller, but see if you can go to the largest range that's possible for you. And if it's making you hold your breath, that might be a little too much, so you can bring that down a little bit, dial it down a little bit. And the next time your elbow is down toward the floor, I'll have you switch the direction, so we'll just go the other way. The reason you want to have your elbow down toward the floor is that your shoulder joint is in a more stable position to make a switch. When your arm is extended, your shoulder joint is not quite as stable, so you could just pinch a little something in there, maybe not make it feel so good. Next time your elbow is down toward the floor, we'll pause for a moment, and now we're going to make a figure 8 with the elbow. So draw a nice big 8 with the elbow. And I didn't mention breathing, but I know you're all doing it. So breathing in, breathing out. And breathing in and out through your nose is really important, not just because of the pollens and the filtering and all of that, but breathing in and out through your nose keeps your brain in a steady state, right? It keeps the vagus nerve. I've talked a little bit about this. It's a big nerve that innervates all of your organs, and it goes right to your brain, and it also has something to do with your anxiety and sympathetic response in your body, right? So we made like 25 eights, haven't we? Let's switch direction. So we're going to erase the eights. So breathing in and out through the nose, in other words, keeps you a little more calm and a little more steady state, right? Because the brain likes a certain amount of oxygen and carbon dioxide, that it thrives on a certain mix. And when you breathe in through your mouth, that mix gets off. It dysregulates. So if you're a mouth breather, you might want to just try this. Okay, let's let that go. And let's go the other side, and we'll just start with some nice big circles. Again, just kind of noticing, what does this side feel like? Is it different than the other side? Can you make smooth round circles, or are there some flat spots or kind of catchy spots over here? Maybe this shoulder gives you a little bit of trouble and the other one doesn't, or maybe it's the other way around. Sometimes one is noisy and the other's not so noisy. And the next time your elbow gets down toward the floor, nice and safe, we're going to switch direction, go around the other way. So we're loosening up the shoulder joint. And the reason we're doing that is because we will be doing some stretching for the rib cage that's going to require the shoulders to kind of move a little bit. So we want to lubricate the joint a bit. Next time your elbow's down toward the floor, let's do some figure 8s. So going up and around. And if you're not left-handed, is it harder to make an 8? Yeah, right? It's like, how is that supposed to go here, right? What is that supposed to look like? All right, and at some point, reverse 8s. Yeah. Bigger on the bottom, smaller on the top, right? Is that your 8? Good. All right, and then let's relax that. Shake out your arms a little bit here. Okay. So take your hands together. Actually, let's do a little bit of work for the fingers before we do that. So just kind of squeezing and extending the fingers. Notice how the hands are working this morning. All right, everybody smooth and even in there, or is there a finger or two that are maybe having a little trouble? And then extend your hands, take your thumb and your first finger, keep the fingers straight, but take your thumb and first finger together. So not like that, but like that, right? And then we'll go to the second and the third and the fourth. So go back to the first, second, third, fourth. So it's like you're trying to touch the tip of your thumb as close to the base of your fingers as you can get them. Does that make sense? Yeah, not to the tips of your fingers. So that would be to the tips of your fingers. So we're not doing that, we're doing this. Good. Notice how you stop breathing, right? Because this is a weird thing to do. This is definitely a weird thing to do. Okay, so now take your thumb and just bring it across your palm and touch the base of your baby finger. And then relax that and extend the thumb. So again, bring it across and touch the base of your baby finger. So it's right there on the palm of your hand, right? So we're going to do that a few times. So the thumb has this amazing ability to do this. The other fingers can't do that, right? That would be really weird if your first finger could do that. Okay, breathing in, breathing out. Excellent. And then let's just circle around at the wrists. Good. And circle the other way. A little bit of music in there in the wrists. A little tendon snapping. Okay, now the hands are a little bit more ready to interlace. So interlace, take a look which thumb's on top, just so I want you to remember that, right? Okay, so we're going to take the hands. We're going to take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, press your palms away, round through your upper back, and bring your chin right into that notch between your collarbones. And as you breathe in, we're going to bring the arms up overhead as high as they'll go. And as you breathe out, we're going to come back to that position with the arms out in front and rounding through the spine. So this is the whole movement. Breathing in, the arms come up. Breathing out, the arms come forward. Now, do the best you can. So if you've got an issue with your shoulder, you might not want to keep your elbows bent a little bit. You might not want to bring the arms way up overhead. So we're just exploring a little bit of movement here in the upper back, the shoulders. One more time. We're going to finish with the arms in front and we're going to hold here. Now really press out through the heels of your hands and feel your shoulder blades coming off your back. We worked with shoulder blades a little bit last week. So feel the shoulder blades coming off your back. One more breath in and out. And then we'll release the hands, let them come back down to your lap. Roll the shoulders up, back and down a little bit. Okay, so thinking about shoulder blades, how they move on your back, right? They sit there like two little triangles that sit on your back. And when you bring your arms forward like this, your shoulder blades come off the sides of your body this way. When you bring your arms back, your shoulder blades will come together. So we're going to do that movement. So we're just going to take the hands in a real easy position, right? So a little bit lower than your shoulders. And we're going to reach forward. I'll sit sideways. So we're going to reach forward and really press out through the hands and feel how the upper back gets rounded. So I'm not doing this with the whole back. It's just that upper back, right? And then we're going to bring back and squeeze the shoulder blades together. So you can bring the elbows as far back as they'll go. It's not this, pressing the chest forward. It's pulling the shoulder blades. So the emphasis is on the shoulder blade area. So we're rounding through we're pulling the shoulder blades off the back, and then we're putting them back together, right? So see if you can feel your shoulder blades, like two little wings back there. They're coming together when the arms come back, and they're coming far apart when the arms come forward. And now let's add some breathing in there, right? So breathing in and out through your nose. As you inhale, pull the arms back and squeeze the shoulder blades together. And as you exhale, press the arms forward and bring the shoulder blades off the back. So this will be a slow movement as you're breathing slowly, right? Good. And now we're going to continue to push and pull, but I want you to switch the breathing so that as you come back with your hands, you're going to be exhaling. And as you come forward with your hands, you're going to be inhaling. So the emphasis now is going to be on the back of the body, right? So as you breathe in, your arms are forward and you're breathing into this part of your back, way up here. And as you breathe out, the shoulder blades are squeezing together like they could squeeze the breath out, right? It's a little different feel. One is not better than the other. They're just a little different. We get access to different parts of the body. One more time. Good. And then we'll just relax the arms. Let your hands rest on your lap. Close your eyes. Breathing in and out through your nose. I want you to notice where you feel breath. Can you feel breath in your chest, right up near your collarbones? Can you feel breath behind your chest, in the upper part of your back, between your shoulder blades? And then let your eyes open. So we've worked a little bit the front of the rib cage and a little bit the back of the rib cage. We're going to work a little on the sides of the rib cage, because this is another area where we can get fuller, deeper breath, is by stretching through the rib cage. We have little muscles between each rib called the intercostal muscles, and they're actually part of our breathing apparatus. So the intercostal muscles actually contract and relax according to our breathing. So let's start by taking the right arm up overhead and just leaning to the left. Yep. And you can do this with your hand all the way up, or you don't even have to use your hand. You can just lean to the left and lift that shoulder a little bit. So if you've got a shoulder arm issue, you can do it like this. So I'm doing the modified version. If you don't need a modified version, please bring your arm up overhead, right? So we're just stretching through the sides of the body, right? So as we come up and over, I'm going to ask you to start to breathe. As you reach up and over to one side, breathe in. And as you reach up and over to the other side, breathe out. And it doesn't matter which you choose. We're breathing in as we lean to one side, and breathing out as we lean to the other side. And the breaths are nice and long and slow, so the movement is long and slow, right? Okay. And then we'll take a little bit of a pause. So now you got to remember, which side were you leaning to when you were breathing in? You're going to do the opposite now. So if you were leaning to the right and breathing in, now you're going to lean to the left and breathe in. And I didn't give you warning up in advance, right? So you're like, I have no idea what I was doing. Just fake it. If you don't know, just fake it. So leaning to one side, take a breath in, and then take a breath out. And if this feels really familiar, like, oh, I just did this, just switch it. No one will know. Good. So we're just trying to condition the body, the sides of the body, the sides of the rib cage, the armpits, where there's some space in there for the body to breathe into. So we're trying to condition those areas for the inhales and the exhales. Good. Excellent. Last time, once on each side. Excellent. Okay. Good, and then coming back to center. So we've opened up a little bit the sides of the body. So now, if you can, take your hands and put your hands right down on the bottom of your rib cage. Get right down to close to the bottom. Not way down. You don't want to push too hard. You got some floating ribs there, so you don't want to push too hard in there. So what we're going to do now is breathe into the hands. And if this doesn't work for you, if this is like really hard for you to get your shoulder out this way, you can always take your hands and go across your body, right? So you can just kind of gently place one hand on one side of the rib cage and one hand on the other. So if this is creating a lot of tension in your neck, or it just doesn't feel right, you can just do it this way. I'm going to show you this way. So as you breathe in, I want you to breathe into your hands. Expand your rib cage into your hands. And as you breathe out, let your rib cage slowly contract under your hands. And this might take a little bit of doing, especially if you don't have a lot of awareness of your rib cage here, or if you don't have a lot of movement here naturally, right? So breathing in, you should feel your rib cage move out like a little bellows, and then breathing out, your rib cage would move in a little bit, right? So breathing in, the rib cage expands into your hands. Breathing out, the rib cage contracts under your hands. If it's comfortable, close your eyes and do this. You might be able to see or sense a little bit better what's happening in your rib cage, what's happening underneath your hands. Breathing in, breathing out. See if you can really expand into your hands on the inhalations, and then gently contract on the exhalations. One more time, nice deep breath in and out. And then you can let your hands rest on your lap. Close your eyes if they're not closed already. And go inside your breath now. So as you're inhaling and exhaling, see if you can feel the front of your rib cage, your chest rising and falling. The back of your rib cage near your shoulder blades lifting and lowering. The sides of your body, up under your armpits and all the way down to where you just had your hands. See if you can feel the expansion and contraction there. So it's three-dimensional, right? So when you're breathing in, the front, the back, the left and right sides of your rib cage expand. And as you breathe out, the front, the back, the left and right sides of your rib cage contract. Take one more full deep breath and really expand that rib cage as big as you can, and then let it out with a sigh. And let your eyes gently open. Do you get a different sense of your rib cage after doing that last breath? Do you feel how much more expansive you can be there, how much more capacity you have for breath? So we don't use enough of our lungs on a regular basis. Let me back up. There's two ways that we breathe. Right? So we breathe unconsciously because there's, at the brain stem, it's very important for the brain to get oxygen and carbon dioxide, and the way that the brain maintains its oxygen intake is to make sure that you can't shut it off. So there's a little thing in the back of your brain that says, yep, we're just breathing in, breathing out. And then the second way that we breathe is consciously, right? So when I'm stressed, I breathe really shallowly. When I'm relaxed, I breathe really, really long and expansively, right? So that's the part that we're getting at, is the long, expansive part of it. We're using the same apparatus when we breathe, right? So we have the nose, that's one of the components of our breath. The mouth, right? Because sometimes we do need to breathe through the mouth. There are times when that happens. The throat, right? So you have the esophagus that brings the air down into the lungs, and then we have the lungs. We've got 5 lobes of lungs. We've got 3 on the right and 2 on the left. And then we've got the intercostal muscles that we were just working on between the ribs. And then the most important, or not the most important, but certainly the biggest driver of breath is your diaphragm. And your thoracic diaphragm, it goes all around your rib cage. It's sort of inside like a mushroom. If you can picture, I always think of it like a shiitake mushroom. Y'all know what a shiitake mushroom looks like? Yeah, it's got like it's a little concave actually in the center, right? And it's just this broad, flat thing. So when you breathe in, that mushroom pulls down, and when you breathe out, it relaxes and comes back up. The diaphragm is actually what pulls the air in and fills the lungs. When we breathe shallowly, the diaphragm moves just a little bit. When we breathe deeply, the diaphragm moves really far down. Well, no, it doesn't move really far down. That's not true. It moves down farther. It's still a very small movement, but it moves down farther. And what it does is it creates a little more back pressure in your abdomen. So breathing is a way to massage your organs, right? So we think about breathing, just bringing in oxygen and carbon dioxide and all of that. But another benefit of full deep breathing is that it actually provides a little massage for your internal organs, especially your gut. Right? So if you're having any issues with your belly, any gut kind of issues, deep breathing can be really helpful in a mechanical way by massaging that part of your body. So I just wanted to give you that little overview on breathing, and we'll do the test next week on that. Okay, so continuing on with breath, I'm going to have you come right up to the front of your chair. Bring your feet a little bit farther apart than your hips, right? Okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to be flexing forward and backward with the body, right? So we've done this before. This is the first of the 6 movements of the spine. So we're just going to take the chin down toward the collarbones, and we're going to hold here for a couple of breaths. So we're just letting the neck get relaxed, the head gets heavy. And as you're breathing in and out, I want you to see if you can feel that stretch coming from, say, the shoulder blade area or the top of the shoulders up into the back of the head. And now as you continue to keep your chin tucked toward your collarbones, kind of round through the upper part of your back like you're bringing your nose down toward your navel. And let the stretch kind of shift down a little bit farther. So you feel this maybe in your neck and the back of your head, but also down behind and below your shoulder blades. Again, breathing in, breathing out. And then come farther forward as if you were going to bring your forehead down toward the floor. And you can use your hands and your arms to brace yourself. So put some weight into your hands. Put some weight into your arms. And let your torso just sort of hang here for a brief moment. And then slowly press into your hands, and we're going to lift up. So as you lift up, notice if you're still forward with your shoulders, bring your shoulders back a little bit. Okay? And then we're going to roll the shoulders back, draw the shoulder blades together, and press the chest forward a bit as you keep your chin tucked in toward your collarbones. And then relax that. So we'll do that a couple of times. So we're just really gently bringing the shoulder blades together as we breathe in, and then relaxing as we breathe out. Right? So the chin stays kind of pulled back a little bit. In other words, we don't want the chin lifting up toward the ceiling. Good. And then one more time, we're going to pull back and hold. And breathe. Great. And then let that go. Okay. Rolling the shoulders one more time. Let's do a little bit of movement in the hips. So we're going to pull the focus for breathing down a little bit lower. So as we've been working on the rib cage. I talked about the diaphragm coming across your rib cage, but then we've got the waist, the belly, and the back, the low back, that are also part of this, right? So when your diaphragm moves down, creates a little back pressure in your abdomen, in your gut, and so we need to stretch sometimes the sides of the body and the front of the body in order to get that to really facilitate the breathing. So I'm going to have you come over to the right side of your chair a little bit here. Good. All right. Let's start first with some warm-ups for the thighs and the hips. So bring your foot out to the side, your right foot out to the side, and we're just going to lower it forward and bring it back. So we're doing a little rotation here. We get some movement in that hip joint. This is a lot like what we did in the shoulder, right? Remember the shoulder? We were doing the zeros and the eights. And now we're just kind of going forward and back. And notice, is it easier for you to move the knee back, or is it easier for you to move the knee forward? And if the chair is impeding your ability to do that, just get a little closer to the edge. And now the next time that your knee comes back, hold it there. See if you can come onto the outside edge of your foot, right? So you're coming up on the little toe side of your foot and really pull that knee back a little bit more. Good. Breathe in, breathe out. And then we're going to come forward and roll onto the big toe side of your foot, right? So you can kind of lift the bottom of your foot. Breathing in, breathing out. Let's go back the other way. Inhale, exhale. Good. And come forward. Great. Couple more of these. Just really going to the end limit, right? The end range, rather. So we're pushing the limit a little bit. Great. One more time each way. All right. Good. And then coming back to sort of a neutral position, we're going to extend the leg out. So if it's helpful, you can hold on to your chair and see if you can get your heel on the floor. All right? So you're facing me as best you can, right? So the tendency is going to be to kind of turn to that leg. So we're going to have you face me. And now we're going to see if we can rotate the whole leg in and out. Right? So we do this a lot. I'm just going to do this so you can see. We do this a lot this way, right? Forward. We've done that quite a bit. We've just got the leg in a different position, and we're doing the same kind of movement. Now you might notice it's easier to come forward with the foot, right, than it is to go back. Yep. In this position, it is going to be easier to go forward than back. And you should never feel pain. So if you're feeling a little discomfort, that's okay. But pain, you want to kind of stay inside of that. So next time your heel is on the floor and your toes are straight up, we're just going to stay here a little bit. So really pressing out through the heel. Let's see if we can lean into that right side. Good. And then come back up. So we're just going to lean over to the right side a little bit and come back up. Good. The leg is ready to receive this. Now, if you're comfortable here, you can continue to do it this way. If you'd like to raise your left arm up overhead and come into a deeper stretch, you can do that. So whichever way you're doing this, with your hand overhead, maybe on your shoulder, maybe still on the chair, I want you to focus on the left side of your waist. As you come over to the side, can you feel your body opening on the left side? Breathing in and breathing out. It doesn't matter when you inhale, when you exhale. And the next time that you come over, we're going to stay here. And again, if this is too much with the arm up overhead, you can have your hand on your shoulder. You can even have your hand down here. But we're staying in this position, right? So we're not moving back and forth. We're just kind of holding here and breathing in and breathing out. So feel what's happening in the in the left side of your body, especially from your rib cage down to your hip. Inhale and exhale. If you want to challenge yourself a little bit more, turn the palm of your hand up toward the ceiling and press out through the heel of your hand. That'll challenge it a little bit more. One more breath in and out. All right, and then we're going to come all the way up. Great. Take your foot, heel and toe it back to the center. We're going to scoot over to the left side of the chair. And then using your heel and toe, walk that foot out just a comfortable distance. You're still facing forward. And again, let's kind of lubricate this hip joint a little bit. So we're just going to drop the knee in and then pull it out. I hope that's a chair. John, is that you? Wow. Here we go. Yeah. Yikes. So notice if this side is different, right? How many of you notice a difference? Yeah. Yeah. How many of you, well, no, that's not a fair question. So some of us have had some alterations in our joints, right? Maybe a new joint. Maybe there was an injury or something, or maybe we've got some bursitis or arthritis and had to have like a shot or PT or something in there. So we've had some modification to one of the joints. Okay, so the next time you pull the knee back, let's hold there, really squeeze and come up on the little toe side of your foot. Right, so you're really trying to come up on the little toe side of your foot. Feel the active muscles there, so in the back part of the glutes and the side of the leg, and then we're going to come forward, come onto the big toe side of your foot, and really come forward as best you can. Breathe in, breathe out, and then go to the little toe side, really opening that up a little bit. Good. We'll just kind of go back and forth really slow. Just spend a moment there, right? So don't bounce back and forth really quickly. Just kind of spend a moment there and notice what that feels like. Oh, that feels good, or that doesn't feel so great. That feels different. It might feel tight, might feel pinchy. Good. Okay, and then kind of come back to a neutral position, and we're going to extend that leg out, have your heel on the floor, and again, just notice your torso. Make sure it's kind of facing forward. So in other words, you don't want to be facing your left leg, you want to be facing forward. And now with your toes lifted up toward the ceiling and toward your shin, we're going to rotate that whole leg in and out. So it's like a big windshield wiper, right? So we're going in and out. So make sure your movement is coming all the way up your leg, right? So you don't want it to be, in other words, you don't want it to be just at the ankle. You want to have the whole leg turning as best you can. And if you do have pain here, again, you want to stay inside the pain. So if it's causing you discomfort, that's one thing, that's okay, because it's a challenge for that joint. But if it's causing you pain, you want to stay inside that pain a little bit. Give a bend to the knee, maybe don't rotate quite so much. Okay, and then the next time the toes are face up, or straight up rather, we're going to stay here. And again, your torso's facing me, right? So you don't want to be turning in this direction. And then we're just going to lean into that left side. So we're doing a little bit of leaning into the left side. Breathing in, breathing out, doesn't matter when. as long as the breath is smooth and steady. So when your breathing is smooth and round, right, you go from inhale to exhale and you have that little pause in between and it's kind of all the same. It's kind of like the box breathing. When it's this really smooth breath, that just signals the body that everything is fine, right? The brain is saying, oh yeah, everything's good. You're moving in a way that, isn't stressing us out too much. As soon as you start to hold your breath or you feel like you're exhaling more forcefully or inhaling more forcefully, that's a sign that maybe you're doing a little too much. For those who want a little more, you can raise the arm up overhead, come into a little deeper stretch, right? And the longer and slower your breath, remember, the longer and slower the movement. Yeah. So inhaling, exhaling. Good. And the next time that the arm comes up and over, we're going to stay here. Now you can have your arm up, you can have your hand on your shoulder, you can even have your hand down maybe on your hip or even on the chair. So whatever is kind of working for your shoulder the best. If you want a little bit more, turn the palm of your hand up toward the ceiling and you'll feel that stretch even more intensely. It's almost like you're trying to push up on the ceiling up there, right? So we're stretching from sort of the top of the hip bone up to the bottom of the rib cage, which is your waist. That's the side of your waist, right? So 2 more breaths here. Relax your neck. If you're creating a lot of tension in your neck and jaw, just relax your neck and jaw a little bit here. Good. And then slowly come all the way up. Excellent. Let's take that left leg. We're going to bend and come back in. Come back to the center of your chair. Close your eyes, let your hands rest on your lap. Let's take some breaths in and out. So as you're inhaling and exhaling, notice the expansion and contraction in your rib cage, the front, the back, the sides. Notice expansion and contraction in your belly and your low back and your waist. So we've gone down a little bit lower in the body. Breathing in, breathing out. Take one more deep breath in and let it out with a sigh. Anybody more aware of movement in the sides of the waist and the belly and the back after doing some of that? Yeah. Again, we have this kind of set point where we think our capacity is this amount for breath. And then when we do these little exercises and movements, we realize that, our capacity is actually this much, and then I can access more of that. Okay, so bring your feet directly underneath your knees. I'm going to do a little bit of twisting movement here. So twisting movement requires some thought before you move. I can't tell you how many people I've seen in my practice and in real life outside my practice who have said, I was just bending down to pick something up and I couldn't straighten up, right? Anybody ever have that experience? Yeah, once or twice, right? So what happens is when we move in a way, when we move in a twisting fashion, it's kind of a complex movement. We need to make sure the spine is in its proper position so that we don't have that little catch there. So sitting with your shoulder blades, or your shoulders rather, right above your hips, thinking about your head being right on top of your shoulders. Now, I say that and you're like, well, of course, where would my head be, right? So most of us, our head is like this, right? That's our position. So right now, my head is not on top of my shoulders. My neck is on top of my shoulders, but my head is not. My head is forward. So what happens is I've got gravity pushing down on my head, and what it does is it pushes me farther in this direction because gravity goes like this. So when I go to turn my head like this, I have shorter space in the back of my neck and longer space in the front of my neck. And that can cause a bit of a problem in there. So thinking about getting your chin or getting your head directly over your shoulders. Where are your ears in relationship to your shoulders? So take your fingers up there to your ears, right? Don't put them in there because then you won't hear me. So just put them kind of there, and then take your thumbs, right? And then see where your shoulders are, right? So for a lot of us, the head is going to be a little bit forward of the shoulders. So what we want to do is bring the head back a little bit so you can actually use your ears to steer, right? So if you grab your ears, so I'm sure some of us had our ears pulled like this when we were kids, right? Yeah. So you kind of take your finger and just kind of steer back, right? So you're pulling your head back and then relaxing. Does that make sense? So if your fingers are in the swirly part, right? So in the swirly part but not in the whole part, and you just kind of pull back a little bit and down. Can you feel your chin go toward your collarbones? Yeah? You all look really funny. And I'm sure I don't. So we're just kind of pulling back and down a little bit. Okay, so now kind of let that go. Close your eyes and see if you can feel that. Right, so we just gave a little direction for the head by using the hands. So see if you can feel that kind of pulling back a little bit. And then let go. Okay, one more thing we're going to do. So we did the sort of external cue. Now we're going to do a little bit more of an internal cue. So this is something called a head ramp. So it's we're going to like take the head and ramp it back a little bit, right? So again, being here, this is not about the shoulders, not about the upper back. It's about where the head is in relationship to the shoulders. So I want you to sit up as tall as you can. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to pull the, I'm just going to give you this cue. So if I had a wall back here, right, I'm just going to try and get the back of my head up against the wall and moving as little of my body as I can to do that. Does that make sense? So I'm trying to pull back. So from the front it looks like this. Right? So I see a lot of people with the chin up like this. Bring your chin down and then pull back. So it should feel like your throat is closing a little bit. Little narrowing, yeah. And then go back. We're going to do this a few times. So pulling back. And breathe as you're doing this, but breathe in a way that feels okay. You don't have to do deep breathing or anything like that. Just breathe in a way that feels okay. And the next time that you do this little head ramp, pulling the chin back, I'm going to ask you to hold here. And now it's super important to breathe in a really calm way, because when you feel that narrowing in the back of your throat, that can be a little anxiety producing, right? Because it's like, oh, I don't think I can get enough air in there. You can, trust me, you can. It's just the way that it feels right now. As you're holding here, press up through the top of your head, like you're pressing up into the ceiling. Breathing in and breathing out. And then relax that. So did that feel like a lot of work? Yeah. So when we're in this kind of position, this is exaggerated here, you guys, but when we're in this position, as opposed to this position, when we try to get into this position, it can feel really weird and it can feel taxing, because the muscles in the back of the neck, when I'm like this, these muscles are short. When I do this head ramp, these muscles, I'm stretching them, so it actually can feel like, oh, that's a kind of a big workout for the back of my neck muscles. Also, the kind of the sides of your neck, you've got a couple muscles that come down here, kind of right behind your ear and go into your collarbones. When we're in this position, these muscles get locked into a long position, so they're lengthened. And then when I do the head ramp and try and pull back, these muscles are like, no, I'm supposed to be a little bit tighter than that. And the reason this is important is because these muscles here are also accessory muscles for breathing, believe it or not. So when these muscles are tight, they don't do their job of helping to lift up the collarbones, lift up the rib cage. When we breathe in, the rib cage lifts, and when we breathe out, the rib cage contracts a little bit. So where was I going with all this? I think we had the shoulders above the hips, right? Yeah, we're going all the way back to that part, because we were going to do a twist. And then we're going to have the head right on top of the shoulders. So one of two ways to do this, whichever way you want to do it is fine. You can do the ear thing, steer with your ears, or you can do the head ramp yourself, right? So oftentimes, let me just do a little aside, so relax just for a moment. the reason I'm cueing it like this for you guys, or giving you this level of granularity in how to put your head, is because when I tell people, bring your shoulder blades back and your head level, that's what people do. So it's like I'm trading the tightness and contraction in the front of my body. I'm just trading that for tightness in the back of my body. So we want this movement to be as small and as close to the center of the body as it can be. That's the most efficient way to do it, because then all those big muscles can do the other work that they need to do. Okay, so we'll get to the twist one of these days. So sitting with your shoulders above your hips, one more time. Okay, head in that position that it's right above your shoulders, right? So steering with your ears or doing the head ramp, kind of getting there, relaxing your jaw. Good. Breathe in, breathe out. Feel how tall you are in your chair. And then we're just going to start this twist from the top. So we're going to start by turning the head to the right. When your head gets as far around to the right as it can be, we're going to turn from the shoulders. And when your shoulders get around as far as they can be, we're going to turn from the rib cage way down where you had your hands a while ago. And when you get as far around in your rib cage as you can go, you're going to turn just a little bit more into the waist. This is not going to be a very big additional movement. Now, you don't want your sitting bones to slide on the chair. You want to keep your sitting bones stable. And then let's unwind in the same way. So the waist, the rib cage, the shoulders, and the head. Right? So we'll try that on the other side and see if we can get that same feeling. So once again, shoulders above the hips, head above the shoulders, sitting up nice and tall. We're just going to turn just the head out to the left, go as far as you can with your head, and then move your shoulders to the left, and then your rib cage, and then your waist. Breathing in, breathing out. So you should feel these distinct segments of your body, because we've worked on them throughout the class today, to be able to sense that we have different movement in different parts. Now unwind from the waist, the rib cage, the shoulders, and the head. So we're going to do this a couple more times. So breathing in and breathing out. Shift into that long, slow, deep breathing if you can. Shoulders above hips, head above shoulders. Starting with the head, we're going to turn to the right, breathing in, breathing out. Go as far as you can to the right, then turn the shoulders, then the ribs, then the waist. Again, really taking your time. Sometimes when I do this, I like to picture a helix, like if you know what a DNA molecule looks like. It's just this helix, and it twists around itself, and then slowly coming back in the same way, just unwinding that helix. You might have something else that kind of facilitates that for you, turning to the left, same thing. There's actually little streamer things that people hang outside on their porches in the summer that have like a little helical thing to it too, and the wind kind of twists it around and around. So you might picture that as well. And notice what's limiting you. So coming back to center again. We're going to do this a couple more times on each side. So as you're doing this time, now that you know all the pieces and components, notice what's limiting you. As I'm turning here, am I limited by my neck? Am I limited by my shoulders? Is my rib cage limiting me? Is my waist limiting me? Breathing in and breathing out and unwinding and coming back through the center. And then going to the other side, same thing, starting with the head. So is my head, my neck, is that limiting me in this direction? Do my shoulders limit me as I try to twist? What about my rib cage? What about my waist? Breathing in, breathing out. And then unwinding. We're going to go one more time on each side. Again, going really slowly and investigating. What's my preference? That's the other thing too. Do I like to twist to the right or to the left? We all have a preference. Coming back to center. And then turning to left, head, neck, shoulders, rib cage, waist, all the way down. Coming back to center. When you get back to center, close your eyes. Breathe in and out deeply. And notice. Can you still feel the echo of that movement? Can you still kind of feel or sense your body twisting to the right and to the left? Can you still feel where your body moved freely and the areas where maybe there was a little bit of resistance or a little hesitation? Take a deep breath in, let it out with a sigh. Let your eyes open. Okay. So now we've got a body, a torso that's a little more able to expand and contract with the breaths in and out, which hopefully will help with some of the breathing issues that some of us are facing with the pollen counts as they come up a bit. So let's do this. How are your feet doing? Do your feet have anything to do with your breathing? Sure. Your feet have to do with everything, right? Your feet have to do with everything. Let's give them a little love. So extend your legs out, spread your toes nice and wide, and then let's squeeze and extend the toes a bit. That just feels good, right? Maybe not. Maybe not to everybody. That could be subjective, I guess, right? Okay, so how are the feet doing? Does one foot move more freely than the other? Is there pain or discomfort in one foot or the other? Okay, and then let's place the sole of the right foot down and lift the sole of the left foot up, and then we're going to switch. So you might want to just hold onto your chair, make sure you don't slide off, right? So we're just pressing down, little ankle pumps here, right? Breathe in, breathe out. Okay, and then both feet up, and then we're going to move the feet from side to side. So this is more of an ankle movement, right? So usually we do this and I tell you to feel, make sure it's moving up here in the upper leg. And right now I'm going to say, no, don't let it move in the upper leg. Just notice what your ankles can do. Yeah? So does your right ankle move more freely than your left ankle? Do neither one move too well? And then let's do like some British windshield wipers. So in together and then out, right? So there's a little movement in the knee, a little movement in the hip, but most of the movement is here in the feet. Okay. And then let's bend the knees, bring the feet back down to the floor. Look down there at your toes. If your toes are in your socks, that's okay. Lift all your toes up, but keep the balls of your feet on the floor. Spread your toes really nice and wide. Good. And then let's press the big toes down and lift. So the little toes all stay lifted up, but we're just pressing down on the big toes and then lifting. Pressing and lifting. Breathing in, breathing out. Notice how your breath got really shallow now, right? We did all that work to expand, and now we're just closing down. Good. All right, lift your big toes and all your little toes. Everybody's lifted, but the balls of your feet are on the floor, yeah? Okay, keep the big toes lifted, press the little toes down. And then lift, and press and lift. So we're just doing this little work with all the toes. Good. See if you can breathe deeply as you do this. Good. Okay. And then lifting all the toes, spreading them nice and wide. Breathe in, breathe out. Good. Press your big toes down and your last toes down, but keep all the middle toes lifted. And then lift everybody up. I know, right? Yeah, I got to keep at it. Press those big toes down, those baby toes down, but keep all those middle toes lifted. Right. Lift everybody up. Okay, one more time. Press the big toes down, baby toes down. All the middle toes are lifted. Breathe in, breathe out. I see so many hands like this. I love that. Love that. That's great. It's like this. And then relax. Whew. Okay. Close your eyes. Get comfortable in your chair. Close your eyes. Take a breath in, let it out with a sigh. Yeah, because we just created a whole lot of tension, right, by doing that movement with the feet. So now shift back into this nice, slow, deep breathing in your body. Inhaling and exhaling. Feeling where you're expanding and contracting. Can you feel your collarbones lifting and lowering with each breath in and out? Can you feel your rib cage expanding and contracting on the inhalations and exhalations? Can you feel your belly or your waist expand on the inhalations and contract on the exhalations? As you inhale, is the breath long or slow? Is it shallow or deep? Is it easier to breathe in and out through one side of your nose or the other? Do you have a better sense of your control of your breathing? And by having control of your breathing, do you notice tension in your body that you might choose to let go of? Take your hands up to your chest and breathe into the space between your hands and your chest. Breathe into that connection between your hands and chest. And if you'd like, take a moment just to be grateful for this gift of breath. The ability to recognize it, the ability to breathe without thinking about it, and the ability to change your breath. It's the only function in your body that has that capacity, by the way. It's the only function that's automatic and under your conscious control. And then if you'd like, maybe take your hands together and just acknowledge all these wonderful breathing beings here doing yoga together. Good. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. Breathe. Breathe often. All right.